Guess what? In this video, I'm going to be showing you secrets to not being sick again, going to the hospital, or taking any of those chemicals they call drugs. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, how is everybody doing? I wish you good health, wealth, and happiness. My wife, whoa. So before she came to my house, she had one illness or the other, or one drug or the other to contend with. So she always complained about migraine, um, waist pain, menstrual pain, fatigue, usually chronic fatigue. You know, um, well, I knew I could help, but it wasn't really easy because my most difficult patients are my female clients. Because it's not easy to let them wean off from the bad foods and embrace the good ones, because the bad foods are always those sweet things that we're used to right from our mother's womb. And like one of my clients, who mostly said, one day he said, women like anything sweet, sex, cars, planes, private jets, sugar, honey. So that man was just funny. Because of that and other things, it's not really easy to, make my female clients comply to what they needed to do. So we were doing some things then, but the results wasn't really forthcoming. But I knew that as soon as she and I end up under a roof, the activity was going to become efficacious. So she came, and within a few months, she stopped. In fact, immediately she stopped taking those drugs. And within a few months she stopped complaining about menstrual pain, about waist pain. No, but the waist pain is still there, but not as chronic as it used to be. And that's because waist pain is actually a complicated thing on its own. I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. So she stopped complaining about the chronic fatigue, and of course migraine, that she once complained about. And ever since we've been together more than a year now, she had never ever taken any drug. And you would ask me, what was this magic? What was this magical wand that I gave to her? I'll tell you straight up. It was just persuading her to wean herself off from the bad foods and embrace the good foods that her body is actually designed, to be fed with by the Almighty Creator. So, what are these foods that she took that eventually wean her off from taking drugs and become as healthy as she can be? Now, there's one thing you don't know before I go ahead. Some of these naturopathic principles that myself and other colleagues of mine teach actually works more efficaciously in women. Trust me, it's more efficacious in women. That's because of their body makeup. Okay, the Almighty knows that they are going to be bearing children, so there's a way their physiology and anatomy is made up to respond to natural therapeutic processes, and so their bodies easily adapt to status quo, even much more than the male counterparts. So she just became healthy. Just it happened like magic. She just became healthy, and not to her own greatest dismay, she doesn't have any reason to take drugs anymore. She stopped having menstrual pain. The migraine just disappeared, and what have you. Right. So let me go to those things that she had to stop. Food. She just stopped eating the wrong food. Okay. Now, what are these wrong foods? Carbohydrates. You heard me right. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are edible, or they are potential edible poisons. And if you're here, or you're listening or watching this video, especially if you're from Africa, you know our staple foods. They're always starchy, they're always oily, and we eat them at least 2 times in a day. If you think you'll keep eating those things and still be healthy, then you must be living in cuckoo land. But don't worry, I'm here to help you, give you orientations that will get you out of that cuckoo land and get you to the land of reality, the land of perfect health, the land of bodily balance. Okay, so I want your health to be at top notch. There are good and bad carbohydrates. Both the good and the bad carbohydrates could have a potential catastrophic effect on your body, depending on how you use them. For the good carbohydrate, if you eat them appropriately, you're going to be fine. But for the bad carbohydrates, well, whether I eat them appropriately or not, it's only a matter of time before they begin to have negative effects on your body. All right. So let me talk about these bad carbohydrates. These bad carbohydrates are foods like burger, pizza, hamburger, meat pie, fish roll, soft drinks, beer, and what have you. And what are these good carbohydrates? The good carbohydrates of foods like brown rice. Okay, white rice is of course a bad carbohydrate. I forgot to mention that there. Yam, wheat, millet, or what have you. Your health is my concern, and I'm going to share every secret with you, bits by bits, as I drop my videos. All you need to do is tap on the subscription button, like this video, drop a comment. You can ask a question, drop a comment. Is there any food related or sickness related question you want to ask or you want me to talk about? There are so many things we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about how to cure and treat ulcer, menstrual pain, degenerative diseases, how to cure, treat, and prevent them. Okay? Did I mention beer? Of course, soda, white bread, sugar. I'm talking about processed sugar. The list is just endless. Those things are just a time bomb waiting to explode on your heart, so that as soon as this heart is bombed, the bombing actually starts gradually. It takes years, to until it get bombed. But you don't have that time. The life is too short. You want to live healthy and a balanced lifestyle. You just want to live happily. You want to live a sickness-free life. Like some of us. Some people said that, well, we're going to die anyway. So, like they say in Nigeria, anything can kill a man. One thing must kill a man, rather. Well, I know that one thing will kill me, but I also know that life is short. But I want to live the best of it. It's so short that I want to live every day being healthy, being free from any pain or sickness of any sort. I'm staying away from drugs. I don't need them. They're not made for my body. All right. My body is made to eat food. Natural foods created by the Almighty that my cells, are accustomed to. So let me go straight about these carbohydrates. How can they be taken wrongly? Okay, let me start from the bad ones. I've named them earlier. When you take these processed carbohydrates, what happens is that as soon as you take them, they immediately get broken down into smaller particles and end up in your bloodstream as glucose or starch. But this glucose is a bad glucose called amylopectin. Amylopectin is a very bad glucose that shoots up the level of insulin in your bloodstream, as well as shoots up the level of leptin in your bloodstream. Leptin is actually hormones that provide the sensation of satiety when we eat, so as to tell our brain. Okay, it communicates with our brain, telling our brains that we are now full of food. We stop eating. But what happens is that amylopectin shoots the level of leptin so much in the body that it becomes difficult for the chemical the, the, the chemical message to be transmitted between leptin and the brain. Let me give you an analogy to understand why when something is too much it becomes uh, inactive. Let's use an example of, say, a rat dying in your room. Okay, so the very for the very first few hours or days, you're gonna be perceiving the odor, the excruciating odor. But after a while, the cells of your nose or olfactory organ seem to lose the sensation of the smell. That is because the smell had become too much, that the cells of your nose had become insensitive to them. There was one time in Lagos. I was at Isolo, and we were living just behind the General Hospital Isolo. Now, due to one reason or the other, we were made to understand that they had some technical problems, at the mortuary, and the dead bodies there started stinking. The stench was so unbearable. It stopped me from sleeping. I remember it hit so hard. You would think that it was a punch of a smell that was being hit against your nose. But after a while, we got used to the smell. It stopped smelling, and we could only smell it again if we left the house and come back. So what happens is that when we leave the house, the nose, resensitizes itself and is beginning to pick the smell again gradually when we come back. But here's the caveat. As soon as we're back after a few hours, the smell just seems to either reduce or just go away, and then you feel it once in a while. Now, the same thing happens when the level of insulin and leptin becomes too much in your bloodstream. So when the leptin is too much in your bloodstream, your brain is unable to understand that you are eating and you're full. That is why you could take as much as 10 meat pies or finish a loaf of bread, but you might not be able to finish a plate of brown rice. Okay. Then the thing is because, of course, like I told you, the leptin is not being effective. The message is not being communicated to the brain effectively. All right. Now, on the other hand, when you consume good carbohydrates, like I mentioned earlier, they get broken down into smaller pieces, and find themselves in the bloodstream in the form of amylose. So they find themselves in the bloodstream, and now these are good glucose, very good glucose, very good for the body, and they're called amylose. Okay, they help the body to secrete a hormone called insulin, as well as leptin, but they don't overshoot the concentration of this leptin in your body. Neither do they overshoot the concentration of insulin in your body. So the chemical message between leptin and your brain becomes effective, and your brain tells you that you're full, and you stop at just one plate of, say, boiled yam, or at most a plate and a half, and you're done. All right. But when these carbohydrates, these natural carbohydrates, get consumed recklessly, when they become too much in the body, there's a saying that goes, too much of everything is bad. So when they become too much in the body, it becomes bad for the body. And so the physiological process and the body begins to malfunction. It could lead to an awkward release of insulin in the bloodstream, so much that it results in a condition called hyperinsulinemia. Okay, and so when you have hyperinsulinemia, definitely it works hand in hand with what I called, and this word I've never seen in any book, but I coined it, what I called hyperleptinemia. And that is when the body begins to break down. The cells of the body begin to malfunction and subsequently result to degenerative diseases. And these degenerative diseases like stroke, cancer, hypertension, and diabetes don't just start overnight. They start giving you early symptoms, and these symptoms are migraine, fatigue, joint pains, waist pain, and what have you. And so those keep on going and gradually accumulate and metamorphose to of course degenerative diseases like kidney failure, liver problems, and eye problems, and just like I said, high blood pressure, diabetes, and what have you. And you know, people get to that level and they begin taking drugs, not knowing that these drugs are not, they're not really curing these things. Okay, they're not really curing these things. They just go ahead to even make the body malfunction further and lead their takers to their early graves, because these things are not meant for your body. Okay, the Almighty God didn't create your body with some of those drugs in mind. When he was creating you, he was thinking about bananas, pineapple, mango, coconut, brown rice, and what have you. Not bread, not pizza. And that's why when you take them, they get you sick. So the way out is to quit processed foods and moderate on your carbs intake. That's just a secret. Quit processed foods and moderate your carbs intake. Stay active, lead an active lifestyle, and have a positive mental attitude. I cannot overemphasize on the importance of your mindset. Okay, it's very important. Make sure you have a positive mental attitude, and finally, make sure you have good rest. Make sure you're sleeping well. I'm going to do another video on how you're supposed to be resting. How you're supposed about resting and sleep. I'm going to do various videos breaking all these things down because they are a faculty of their own. Okay, the $1,000,000 question would now be, how do you eat these foods and eat them right? I just stated those foods those carbohydrates that your body actually need. All right, but how do you eat them in comparison to other foods like plants, nuts, fruits, and vegetables? Now let's take a look at this chart. Okay, so taking a look at this chart, I hope it is self-explanatory. Should in case it is not, let me make that a little bit more comprehensible to you. Just look at that circle, the core of the circle, that little circle in the middle of the larger circle. Now represents the percentage of healthy fat we should eat, and that carries the least percent. This is actually a naturopathic food chart. Okay, so if you want to eat like a naturopath, you should consider this. Now, if you pan to your left, you would see that it's almost a 50% of the circle that represents the amount of vegetables that we should be eating. That's like 45% thereabout. Now pan to your left, your bottom, your right rather, pan to your right, your bottom right. There you'll find the amount of protein that we should be eating: fish, meat, legumes, and what have you. All right. And when I say meat, it has to be grass-fed animal meat. Okay, I'll be talking about that in another video. Now pan to your top right, and you're going to see the percentage of grains. Okay, that's about 20% thereabout as well. And this percentage is also applicable to the quantity of water if you are to be taking. Water is actually very important, or fruits or nuts, when it comes to nutrition or proteins. Then probably you need to always watch my video on "You Are Your Best Doctor." That's the name of the video, and I'm going to be leaving a description of or a link. I'm going to be leaving a link to that video in the description below. If you haven't watched it, make sure you do before you come back and watch this one again so that you understand better. Thank you for your time. God bless you. See you in the next video. Be healthy, be wise, be happy.